It had been almost a year since we started dating, and we believed we had found something special. She used to talk about the future, about how our relationship was forever, and I was starting to believe that. Then everything changed the day before yesterday. She asked me to put a ring in my Instagram bio, something I wasn't really comfortable doing, but I did it anyway. She did the same, but on the same day, without any warning, she removed the ring from the biography. It was a punch in the gut, a feeling that something was wrong, but I was willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. The next day, everything changed. She told me she was confused and wanted to break up, but still wanted to stay in touch. There was no plausible explanation, just confusion. I was stunned, not understanding how all this could have happened so suddenly. All I could do was accept it, even though it was difficult. She said she cried after talking about the breakup, and I cried too, but it wasn't because of that. I cried because Fluminense was playing against Boca, and that game affected my emotions in a way that I couldn't explain. So I started packing things up, putting the gifts she gave me aside, deleting photos of us together, and trying to move on. I wasn't sad, but I was quite upset about the way everything fell apart, something I never imagined would happen. Sometimes life surprises us in ways we simply can't predict. In the following days, the feeling of emptiness and perplexity did not leave me. I wondered what had led to this, how the plans we made could fall apart so quickly. I spent hours reflecting on our relationship, looking for clues and answers to what happened. However, answers remained elusive. We talked a little more, as she suggested, but the conversations were filled with tension and discomfort. I could feel the distance between us increasing with each word exchanged. It was clear that although she wanted to maintain some kind of contact, it was no longer the same. Our friends and family were also surprised by the turnaround in our relationship. They were used to seeing us together, believing in our lasting love story. Dealing with their questions and expressions of pity only made the situation worse. It felt like the whole world was watching our story, which was now falling apart. As the days went by, I started to focus more on myself. I found comfort in my daily routine, work, friends, and activities that made me feel alive. Gradually, the pain of separation became more bearable, and I realized that I couldn't stay stuck in the past. Yet even though I was moving forward, a part of me continued to wonder why. Why did she ask to put her ring on Instagram, only to have it taken down? Why was she suddenly confused? The answers remained a mystery, and the truth behind what happened may never be known. I vividly remember a childhood that was, in some ways, ruined by my older sister. It was a troubled relationship from the beginning, a mixture of rivalry and misunderstanding that shaped my view of her in a dark way. From the moment I was born, my sister seemed to have a mission to make my life a living hell. She was 3 years older, and that difference seemed like an insurmountable gulf. She was always our parents' favorite, with her natural talents and charm, while I was constantly compared to her, as if I were an insignificant shadow. I remember the times when she would destroy my toys, she would spread cruel rumors about me at school, and she would even steal my money from my piggy bank. It seemed like she was determined to make me feel insignificant and unwanted at all times. This wasn't just a simple sibling rivalry, it was a pattern of cruelty that persisted day after day. However, the moment that really sealed my disgust for her was when she revealed a secret of mine in front of all my friends at my 12th birthday party. She knew I guarded it so carefully, something that made me vulnerable and ashamed. The mocking look on my friends' faces as they laughed and humiliated me has never left my memory. It was at that moment that the desire for revenge began to take over me. Over the years, this desire for revenge grew, and I began to fantasize about ways to make her feel what I felt. I thought of schemes to ruin her reputation, make her life miserable, or worse. It was as if the bitterness had taken root so deeply in my heart that I couldn't see anything beyond it. My relationship with my sister reached a new breaking point when it came time to apply to college. I had worked hard throughout high school and got a scholarship to my dream college. It was my chance to escape my sister's shadows and create a better future for myself. However, my sister was determined not to let that happen. She got a job at one of the colleges I had been accepted to and, using her influence, had my scholarship suddenly revoked. I was devastated, and she knew this was my only opportunity to attend the college I wanted so much. Her cruel action not only ruined my dreams but also made me question my entire future. I felt betrayed and powerless, and the anger I had tried to suppress over the years exploded into a fierce desire for revenge. However, unlike my childhood, I had grown up and learned from life's lessons. I knew I couldn't allow my sister to continue to control my life and decide my destiny. Instead of letting myself be carried away by anger and the desire for revenge, I decided to look for alternatives and start over from scratch. Thanks to the support of friends and mentors, I was able to find another college that offered a similar opportunity, even though it wasn't my first choice. I knew this was my chance to prove to myself that I could be successful, regardless of my sister's actions. Despite the anger and desire for revenge that boiled inside me, I knew that wasn't the answer. Seeking revenge could lead me to do things I would regret in the future, and I was aware that going down this dark path was not the right thing to do. However, my mind remained a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. The feeling of injustice was overwhelming, and I was determined to do something to confront my sister. I began seeking advice from friends and wiser people, hoping to find a solution that was more constructive than revenge. Over time, I realized that real revenge would be proving that my sister didn't have the power to control my life. I committed to trying my hardest and succeeding in college, regardless of the obstacles it had placed in my path. Instead of focusing on harming her, I directed my energy toward improving my own life.
Over the past few weeks, I have noticed a subtle but disturbing change in my husband's behavior. He's been more distant, more reserved, and it seems like something is bothering him deeply. I believe I discovered the reason for this change, and it leaves me devastated. It all started during a quiet night when we decided to relax by watching a movie on Netflix. It was just another cozy night in our home, but suddenly, as we were laughing together and sharing a special moment, I asked a question that I now realize was a mistake. I remember innocently asking about his assets. It was a casual conversation, in which I wanted to better understand our finances and plan the future. I asked about the possessions he owned, as if it were just a momentary curiosity, but since then, things have changed between us. Now, I see the anguish in his eyes whenever we talk about money or property. He became more secretive about his finances, and what's worse, he started acting like I was only interested in his money. This couldn't be further from the truth. I married him for love, for the affection we shared, and for the incredible person he is. Money has never been a priority for me. My worry grows every day, because I feel like he's pushing me away, as if the trust between us is breaking apart. I tried to explain that my question was just a moment of curiosity, that I have no financial interest in our relationship, but it seems like the seed of doubt has already been planted. I'm worried because our marriage is on the line, and I never wanted him to think I was gold digging. I want him to understand that what we have is much deeper than any amount of money. But how do I do this? How do I restore the trust that seems to have been broken? These worries keep me up at night, make me question every action and word. I hope that, with time, we can overcome this crisis and rebuild our relationship. I want my husband to know how much I love him and that I am willing to prove my intentions are pure. Yet now, I am a worried woman, fearing for the future of our marriage and the gulf that seems to be opening between us. The days following that conversation in front of the television were filled with uncomfortable silence and growing distance. My husband, who used to be warm and caring, now seemed to be constantly on guard. He avoided bringing it up, but his facial expression and behavior said it all. I could tell he was making a conscious effort to avoid discussing finances or anything remotely related to money. It was as if a wall had been erected between us, separating us emotionally. Conversations that used to flow freely became scarce, and when they did happen, they were superficial, as if we were walking on eggshells. What saddened me most was the lack of intimacy. He used to hug me tenderly, but now he seemed to withdraw every time I tried to get closer. Those moments of complicity that we shared before that fateful question had become distant memories. I felt like I was losing the husband I knew and loved. The suspicious looks he gave from time to time didn't escape my notice either. He seemed to question my intentions and motives, as if he was trying to find evidence that I was only interested in what he materially possessed. It was devastating to be subjected to this suspicion, especially since I knew it didn't correspond to reality. Furthermore, his reluctance to share his thoughts and feelings with me made me feel like we were living worlds apart. I was eager to resolve the situation and show him that my love was genuine, but at the same time, I felt like he also needed to open his heart and talk about his own insecurities and fears. As time passed, this tension continued to grow, and it was difficult not to become discouraged. I knew something needed to change, and I was determined to do everything I could to rebuild trust in our relationship. However, I knew I couldn't do it alone. We needed to have a frank and honest conversation, where we could express our feelings and concerns, so that, together, we could overcome this obstacle that was threatening our love. As time passed and the tension between us continued to grow, I found myself in a distressing dilemma. The thought of a possible timeout or even a definitive breakup crossed my mind more and more frequently. I wondered if, perhaps, it was the only way to bring peace back into our lives. The sad reality was that my husband's trust in me was seriously shaken, and, as painful as it was,